Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please excuse our tardiness. We had a few technical glitches, and our chair had an engagement and is going to be here a little bit late, so Mr. Demakia will resume the chair role when he gets here to facilitate the meeting, but we are ready to start. So can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Ballard?
Here.
Mr. Demakia? Ms. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Sturgill?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we would entertain our first hearing of the public. If there's anyone from the community who would like to address the board, we welcome you to the podium at this time. Please state your name and your address, and then proceed with your comments, suggestions, reflections, or as you choose.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. My name is Rudy Breglia. I live in Avon Lake, Ohio. I'm a citizen advocate for seatbelts in school buses, and I have no commercial interest. I know we're all on the same page. We want the safest form of transportation for our children. And we all realize that it's a good idea to have a seatbelt on if you're in a crash. And when I talk about seatbelts, I'm talking about lap shoulder belts that you find in every passenger car. Right at the top of that first page of the handout that I gave you, I have my ultimate conclusion, and that's seatbelts save lives. And since 1968, seatbelts in cars have saved hundreds of thousands of lives. And we all in the United States have this safety habit. We get into our cars, 85 to 90% of us will buckle up. In the year 2015, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, changed their policy, and they started to recommend that seatbelts be in all school buses. And they actually came up with that slogan, seatbelts save lives. My number one conclusion that I've reached in the 2 years that I've been working on this is that first sentence that I have on my handout, and that's current Ohio school bus safety features are inadequate to protect children fully. And the reason I can say that is because 5 to 6 children die, and more than 7,000 are injured every year in school bus crashes or sudden stops. Back in the 1970s, federal agencies compromised, and they accepted seatbelts versus, they accepted padded seat backs rather than seatbelts as a protective device in school buses. This choice was based upon a flawed and incomplete theory of protection called the Compartmentalization Theory. And this theory is based upon the padded seat backs absorbing the impact energy of airborne children's bodies that are set in motion by sudden stops or crashes. This theory minimizes injuries, but doesn't prevent them. The theory, and it's called the compartmentalization theory, is most effective when the bus is going slow, when it's going forward, and the children are all seated properly. And that means you're sitting up straight, you're facing forward, and both of your feet are on the ground. If any of those conditions are not met, the theory starts to fail. And the theory fails completely, as I have indicated in number 3, when there's rollovers or side crashes of school buses. There was and in those situations, the children have absolutely no protection. In North Carolina, a study was done over 10 years, and they found that the these types of crashes occurred about 1/3 of the time, and they accounted for about 80% of the children's injuries. Ohio school bus drivers have been required to have seat belts since 1986, but there is no, right now, there is no school district that has seat belts for all passengers, for all the children. Fatalities and injuries are not inevitable, but they're preventable with seat belts. NHTSA, that federal agency I mentioned before, that has responsibility for school bus safety, they found that crashes, injuries and fatalities are reduced by 50% if you wear your seat belt. Seat belts, in addition to, and I'm talking about lap shoulder belts, in addition to having a big safety feature, also improve behavior as on part of the students. They restore order on the bus and they reduce bullying. I recently spoke to the fellow who runs the program in North Carolina for Department of Education. And he actually spent more time on the benefits of improved behavior on buses. You have increased driver retention, and you wind up having less crashes because the driver is paying attention to his primary job, which is driving that bus safely. Now, NHTSA, that federal agency again, requires seat belts in cars, in small school buses, and in commercial motor coaches. Commercial motor coaches, new ones, now have seat belts required, and that was due to a bill that was sponsored by Sherrod Brown, our own senator, and he's really on board. Now, my number 7 is NHTSA and NTSB, and many safety medical organizations recommend lap shoulder seat belts for school buses. Number 8 is 7 states, many cities, and that includes Denver, Indianapolis, and Philadelphia, and many volunteer school districts require seat belts in school buses. Avon Lake is going to have seat belts in at least one new school bus this coming spring, pending a final vote by their school board. There are some pending laws both in Ohio and in Congress, and I have them listed there. Number 9, this is often not covered, but Ohio school districts risk unlimited compensatory damage awards for student injuries. We have children flying down the highway doing 70 miles an hour without any seat belts. And to me, that represents a recipe for disaster, and really doesn't make any sense to me. The estimated cost is about 3 cents a student a day, or about $5 a student a year, if you spread that over the lifetime of the bus. But there are some savings that are possible. Your insurance premiums would drop, litigation costs would drop because you're having less accidents. You would have increased driver retention, and you would minimize staff time dealing with misbehaviors that happen on the bus. My program goals are, number 1, to alert the community to the school bus safety concern that can be fixed directly with seat belts, and thereby prompt action, preventative action in communities. Number 2 is to help school districts deal with this issue and overcome any perceived problems. And number 3 is to acquire funds, public or private, that would help you to conduct a test, just like Avon Lake, where you would have seat belts in one new school bus. And I understand that First Student provides buses for you. And I've had some discussions with First Student, and they're willing to put seatbelts in your school buses for a 12% premium. So it is possible for you folks to have seatbelts in your school buses. Now, I wanted to open it up. Can you ask questions now? I don't know what the, or do you want me to wait around till the second period?
So Mr. Damaki just got here. He's presenting some information that he's gathered around lap safety belts.
And buses.
So typically what happens for us at this stage, we listen to the persons.
Okay.
We don't usually, if anybody had any questions, they would ask them. And so the information is gathered here. I think what will happen is someone from the district or the board might communicate with you if they have any future questions.
Okay.
But if there's no questions from any board members, then thank you for your presentation. And of course, it's very important. Safety is of the utmost importance to us. And we've had some private discussions, and I'm sure this will generate a lot more conversation. And just the advocacy piece of it and bringing in awareness, I think is a start in creating this conversation, because if there's no conversation, there's not going to be any change that occurs. So,
absolutely.
So thank you for being an advocate and a champion of this. And I'm sure this will be generating a lot of conversation over the next weeks and months.
Okay, and anytime you can always, you have my card, you have my number, my email address. If there's any questions in the future, please. And if I can offer any help to you, the last page of your handout is all folks who have a lot of experience, work for school districts, or part of state government. They're certainly willing to help you deal with this issue. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'll go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Mike Gergley. I own Gergley's Maintenance King. I was here 2 months ago and got an email from Mr. Hill and expressed my concerns. But as to date, I'm just giving you a report. Nothing's happened. I've spoke to Mr. Hawk. He's called me once. I've reached out for him a couple months. I sent an email to Mr. Hill on November 7th, told him of basically recapping what I just said, and no one has contacted me. The local business owner down here, it's frustrating that Lorain decides to buy their supplies in Medina. I don't see what Medina does for Lorain. Yet here I'm right down on Broadway and I get no help. Why?
Like I said, when we talked before, I had discussions with Mr. Hawks, asked him, kind of the reasons and whys, and so when we talked, there was kind of 2 avenues I had in my position, was to ask him just initially and just have that discussion on why he goes with who he goes with. The other part of it is when I start to review and do budgeting now, I have the option of making recommendations and giving the cost comparisons. That's probably not going to be until like January, February. So the initial conversation I had with him was, where are we at on this? I can make a recommendation at that point. When it comes time for budgeting, I can say, cost comparison. And I know I had numerous conversations with Mr. Hardy, too, the CEO, about wanting to stay local. And it's almost, it should be more of a decision, like a equal playing ground. Okay, if it's equal, then we stick local. If we look at the other 2 in regards to cost, obviously, and also the service provided or timeliness, or if things are in stock, those are all the things that obviously I look into.
Sure.
And he agreed 100% that if we can, as like kind of the tiebreaker, if you will, we would always want to stay local. So it is something we're still looking into. It's not a dead point by any means. It just might be something that I have to push a little harder on and do more research on when it comes budgeting time.
And that's fine, but Mr. Hawk just has not even returned the call.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yes, he said he'd get back to me. This is probably 3 weeks ago,
Okay.
at least, if I can remember.
Okay.
So just,
I may be out of order to ask this question, but do you currently bid on the work here, or is it a no bid kind of an item?
Right now, I would have to say it's probably no bid kind of item.
We just got, wow.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the reason why my position was created, in the sense of that I can look at those cost comparisons. So we're actually treating it like a bid. We're going to truly look at, who has the best product available, cost-wise, just product quality in general, things like that.
I had product in here, and they went right back to Medina.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't sold anything to the school, I have, but in the last probably 3-4 years, it's really went down to nothing.
And since you were communicating with him, have we figured out a line item what's in the budget for the maintenance products and cleaning supplies, or we've not lumped it together as that?
Well, it's kind of all, it comes from a few different areas. Each building has their own budget, and it depends on what we're ordering specifically. It's not going to fall into one line item, so it's kind of all over the place for what he orders for.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can pull it all together and give you like a lump number. I don't have that off the top of my head, though.
I think it would be interesting to know if we could do
You're paying-
savings by doing a bigger.
You have dial hand soap here, you're paying for the name.
Yes,
You're paying for the name.
and if we're buying for 14 buildings plus an administrative
You're
building.
paying,
that
you're
could
paying
be-
for the name on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I know, because I know it's out there.
Yeah, that'd be nice to look into that and see.
I
if
definitely
have a
am.
savings there.
The other thing is, do we have, and I don't know what the policy is there anything in board policy that presents any value around local preference?
There's nothing within board policy for it.
So then what we should do from our place is look at what policies we have around purchasing, and then identify, generically speaking almost, do we want to make any statement in terms of when this is equal and that's equal, that, because we should, that's a policy place that would then give guidance to Mr. Hawks and anybody else.
Yes.
I think, the conversation that you're talking about, I think we did have that discussion years ago, to where, as a Board of Education, we felt that it was extremely important to support local. So if we were in a situation where, again, the bidding process, and there was a competitive bid for this local person and a competitive bid for somebody out of state or out of the city, the preference would go to the local folks, because we believe that, A, if we don't support our own, then none of us can survive. So, to your
I think it
point,
was part of our narrative conversations. I don't know if it
Yeah.
ever transcended into written policy.
No.
Otherwise, it was just a conversation.
It was more of a practice, and I would probably say when it's in that realm, it's probably not consistent. So,
I
I
agree,
know
it's
that-
got to come from top.
Yes.
It's got to come from top down.
Well, and we wouldn't be deciding on specific pieces, but generally speaking, we need to make that, place that in the priority. And I know it was different because we had all these buildings we were building and all these things that were, there was no local. I mean, buying brick, buying
for
whatever.
certain things, there's
And
not,
that-
but
and that's
yeah.
why that's why the conversation started about buying things local, because we was building, and all our materials, actually, some of it was mandated at that point when we was building this. But I believe they have, don't they have a state buying, they have like a consortium or something where are you part of that?
I used to be, that is,
No benefit to you.
well, not that there's no benefit, well, yeah, I guess you would say there's no benefit, because you know why? They don't buy from it. They cherry pick what they want to buy. And,
They use that as an excuse to say we have it. but
well,
then
exactly,
ignore
because
it.
years ago, they had a Lorain County co-op, okay, and I had one, and I'm thinking, oh, great. You know, I now I'm gonna get to do business. In fact, one of the ex-gentlemen that were doing operations, he's now in another district, used to be at Clearview, and I thought, great, we get to go in there and do it. And because I went in there and said, look, we got awarded this bid, me being green, not knowing, what are you guys gonna buy from me? And he, to this day, it's still, it irks him that I came in there and asked about doing business with Clearview, because we were on this group that was awarded the bid for for the certain custodial items, 10, 15, 20 items. But yeah, so it doesn't hold water. It really doesn't. So I drop out of it. I was joined, that group got absorbed by Ohio School Council. It's a waste of time. It really is. For me, anyway. You go to these shows like they have over in Independence, and it's a waste.
I think it would always be a plus that they're hiring people that live in Lorain. and we need to employ.
And we do, and we're a cleaning
Those
company as well,
that-
and we do hire a lot
exactly.
of people from Lorain.
And I think that would always be a plus, to use our own business model to start with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The ladies, would they like to come up now and talk about It Takes a Village? They had mentioned it. I think you're better doing it than me.
Yeah, okay.
That I am.
Name is Summer Harvey, 832 Highland Park Boulevard, Lorain, Ohio. So I do have a couple questions, but I guess I'm just going to introduce our group, It Takes a Village. We were a couple parents who came together. We were made aware of a ton of concerns that we knew personally and information we've received from lots of people. And so we started a Facebook group trying to recruit other parents to give the same effort and wake up to what was going on. And we've collected a really large following between Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. More recently, we've also established a Facebook page for House Bill 70. It's called Lorain Tackles House Bill 70. We're also circulating a petition that will be returned to, the Supreme Court case? Okay, yeah. November 28th, so we would like to receive it back by the 27th so that we can get everything in order. And it's just in support of the appeal that's being heard on the 28th for the Ohio Supreme Court. So I don't know if there's anything that the Board of Education can do to kind of help us circulate that petition, or Tony has been instrumental in that for us, but I was just kind of reaching out further and kind of also because I know it's public information, the videotape, so that they can be aware of us, know what we're about, and know that we're in what direction we're headed. So is there anyone here that will be attending the rally on the 28th in Columbus? Tony? Okay. So I unfortunately won't be able to be there. I'm going to be attending the Academic Distress Committee, but Barb and Mary will be there. So you guys will have, we're doing our best to gather people. We haven't heard of anybody that is going to go yet, but we've collected quite a few signatures thus far and want to continue to do so. I'm going to ask my questions now, although I assume that they may be addressed, but I'm going to have to leave because I'd like to catch at least the tail end of the town hall. Tony, did you ever receive the records request about the Texas trip?
I have not.
Okay. And is there any new information on the addition to the high school?
To answer for the records request for the trip, I did just get yesterday all the reconciliation for the credit card, which the trip is within there, so you should have that within, if not by the end of the, probably by the end of the day tomorrow, as long as I can get everything sorted. And then the addition to the high school was put on hold due to the fact that the bids were coming in significantly higher than the estimate that the construction company gave us. So they put that on hold. I think they might revisit it in the spring, but I don't know that for certain.
Would you consider our district to be in a good financial situation currently?
Compared to other districts, we're all right.
Like compared to
We
what
got 3 years
districts?
We got 3 years of solvency, which it's 5-year forecast wise, and we could probably pull out a 4th year, depending on how the biennium budget goes and things like that. So we're not that bad off. The thing to keep in mind with that addition, there was still monies left over from the construction project of the high school. That wouldn't become, it's not coming out of general fund dollars.
So this is money that's already existed, and that was meant to go towards construction anyway?
Yes.
And so we're just now using it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad you clarified that, because that's not at all what the public opinion was. I can tell you that. Thank you for hearing me. Have a good day.
As far as you ladies go and the parents that have joined your fight, I just want to personally commend you on stepping up and fighting a tough battle that obviously has devastated the Lorain City School District as well as Youngstown. And To be honest with you, House Bill 70 is a political agenda that isn't about education reform. And I say this to a lot of people in the conversations, although, a lot of times it doesn't get out there, but we have a lot of great teachers and a lot of great students and a lot of great programs and a lot of great things that do happen within the walls of our buildings. And we did prior to the state taking over. Some state standardized test or state evaluation does not truly show the picture that actually happens in a lot of our classrooms. And I know coming up here very shortly, we're going to recognize some of those students and some of their great academic achievement accomplishments, but that message doesn't get out there. And again, I am very happy that you ladies are in this fight, and hopefully more folks join you. The November 28th rally is going to be critical to really send a strong message. I know that many other school districts are also trying to get some folks there, and I'm sure you read it in the newspapers and seen it everywhere else. The attack that House Bill 70 has done on our district and public education as a whole in the state of Ohio. And what I can say to those school districts that it doesn't affect now is if they continue to force this poor bill on public education, if it doesn't affect those school districts now, at some point in time it will. It just needs to be repealed, and we need to get back to educating our kids and focusing on what we do locally. And I think the politicians and the legislators just need to stick to what they know, and education certainly is not that. Let the people that are qualified to do this education industry do it, and the rest of them just need to stay out of the way. But thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I think it's fantastic, and again, I commend you and thank you. And I'm sure the students and teachers of this school district and staff also do as well, as I hear from many of them daily about some of the things that are going on. And I think they're relieved to see that there are people out there that are, especially parents, fighting for them and their students. So thank you so much. This is a hearing in the public, right?
That was it, first.
Yeah. I'm sorry. If there are no other folks that want to speak at the first hearing of the public, we have some recognition of visitors that, again, going back to talking about the great things that occur in our district. And, I have a list of 45 different students that have excelled academically in this school district on the ACT test scores as well as in the classroom. And 2 of those students are here with us today, and I really do want to bring them up here. Where's Rico and Serena? Come on up here. Wow, we're getting over here. Yeah. I just want to, number one, again, commend you guys on your academic achievement. Again, a lot of the clouds that cover Lorain don't get to see this sunshine. And for us Board of Education members, one of the greatest things that we could ever do is graduate kids. And part of getting to graduation is how you guys achieve in the classroom and how you handle these state test scores and state standards. And you two certainly have gone above and beyond. And as a Board of Education, again, I thank you and again commend you on your excellence that you have done in the classroom. And again, this is what we should be talking about. And I think this hopefully is a start of many recognitions to come, to start recognizing our students and their great achievements here at our Board of Education meetings. And certainly I know you're going to do great in whatever you do, and I wish you the best of luck. But could you please step to the mic and introduce yourself and your grade, and if you have family members here, also introduce them as well.
My name is Rico Mercado. I'm in 12th grade. I'm a senior at LCC, the early college program. I'm here with my mom, Melissa Mercado, and I just have nothing but good things to say about early college, and just really think it's a great program, and I hope you guys continue to stay with it.
Awesome. Where's Mom at? Can Mom stand up? And congratulations.
My name is Serena Rivera. I'm a senior at Early College High School as well. In the beginning, like when I was a freshman, I didn't think I could handle it, early college, you know, just being in the college classes as being a freshman. So I did want to, like, you know, like get out of that program, but my family kept pushing me, and as well as my teachers did. So, and I'm glad that they did, because it all helped me in the long run getting my associate's degree. So I thank them for that. And my mom couldn't make it because she had work, but I want to thank her the most.
Awesome. We do have a couple certificates here, and I'll have a better copy for you guys, get them to you guys. But on behalf of the Board of Education and Lorain City Schools, we want to recognize you guys with the certificate of recognition in recognition of having met the standards of academic excellence for the 2018-2019 school year. So congratulations to both of you guys, and thank you for all of your hard work, and best of luck. I'm sure we'll be seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Now you guys want to come take a picture?
At least we got one
And may I
film and one
add
picture.
something about the success of our students? You know I'm famous for cutting out things from the newspaper. Thank you very much. The students celebrated straight A's, and we have, with a quarter of the school year complete, Lorain City Schools celebrated 152 high school students who earned straight A's so far. So I think that is to be commended when you hear everything else about the board. The school system, we are doing some fantastic things, and the students are to be congratulated.
Well, congratulations to all those students.
Yes.
All right, moving on. I need a motion to approve and amend and sign the minutes for our board meeting held November 5th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Any old business? Report and recommendations of the treasurer.
I have nothing today.
New business.
Well, I'd like to bring up one thing, and that is the school levy. Sooner or later, we're going to have to start talking about it, and we'll put that on the agenda at a later time. But I think that's something that we are going to have to figure out. Just want to put it out there.
I sent, I think, Josh, I sent you either a text or an email. I just want to make sure that I'm keeping up with things. I got a phone call last week about a potential tax abatement for Spitzer.
Yeah, I have not. I responded back to you. I haven't received anything on an additional one other than the original one.
I'll call her back and find out exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah, let me know.
Because she said the letter was sent to the board or something, so I was like, okay.
Okay.
I know we looked at a few of them in the past, recent past, and I just
It's the
wanna
two
make-
right next to each other up there, but I wasn't aware of a third.
Okay. Committee reports? And second hearing of the public.
You don't mean to be rude, we're going to the town hall.
Oh, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations, you two.
Congratulations again.
Yep, great job.
Is there any-
If there
Go ahead,
are,
I'm sorry.
no?
Now, I was just going to say, if there's nothing from the floor, is there any updates going on with the Supreme Court hearing that we're talking about? Is there any updates with that?
The East Cleveland hearing is starting, I believe, this week or next week. So I haven't heard anything. Somebody did ask me if we were needed to appear on behalf of East Cleveland. Not at this point in time. I have not received any communication from their attorneys. So I'm assuming that they're just getting into opening remarks starting, like I said, probably, I'm guessing next week after the holiday, that court case would get in there. So not sure how long that will last, but I'll reach out to their attorney and kind of get an update for our sake and see where we're at.
And I know you sent a letter this week to Columbus, and while in Columbus, I had a conversation with Paulo, and he seemed very surprised that he hadn't heard some of the things that he and I discussed, and he'd asked that we send him a letter and get on his schedule for us to have a meeting, so I don't know if that letter was taking the precedence to make that meeting schedule, or should we send another one? Who should we copy and all that?
I think just to be safe, I think it'd be a good idea if you have his secretary's contact information. I think we send, what I had sent. I have already sent the letter to Ohio Department of Education, a couple folks there and a couple departments that I felt oversaw some of the major issues that are going on in the district. But I think it would be probably wise to send Paulo Di Maria a copy of that letter so he can see. But I did receive communication from one of the directors down at Ohio Department of Education, and she was having a meeting. I would assume it would be with Paulo and some of his folks, but they were meeting to discuss that communication that I sent over to them, and I would hope to hear something here before the holiday, so this week. And she did reach out and told me that she was being delayed because of the State Board of Education meeting that was last week, so she didn't have a chance to meet with some of the folks she wanted to meet with, and she would get back to me, but she just let me know that they are working on it and meeting about those issues and concerns.
He seemed eager to have a conversation with Lorain for us to come down as a board or as a representation of the board to have a meeting with them, so.
I think that'd
we
be a
should
great
follow up.
idea, and maybe
Absolutely.
we set that meeting up sooner than later.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. Next board meeting will be set for December 3rd at 5 o'clock right here. If there's nothing else, need a motion
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Ballard?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.